I was also able to work as a practitioner at the time too. So I had like all of the three worlds of practice, teaching and research kind of happening at the same time. And I think that was a really key and important time for my development.
That was the voice of Tijana Sharp, the guest on this episode of The Knowledge Mill. I'm your host, Greg Yoakum. Tijana Sharp is an associate lecturer in sport and exercise science. She is a UTS Sport and Exercise program alumna, having completed the B Sport and Exercise Science and B Sport and Exercise Science honors, and is currently completing her PhD. Her current research focuses on the health and fitness outcomes of combined high-intensity aerobic and resistance training. Tijana practices as an accredited exercise scientist at an exercise physiology and pilates clinic, where she has worked with a team of allied health professionals to develop and implement a range of rehabilitation programs for various pathologies and concerns. She also has a strong passion for professional development for allied health professionals and is a co-founder of the Active Education program, which offers educative courses specific to Pilates-based exercise interventions. This episode is a fun milestone for the podcast, as it marks the first time I've spoken to a former student of mine. Tijana and I first met when she undertook the subject Sport and Society in the first year of her undergraduate studies at UTS. As I've just outlined, she's kept herself busy in the time since. It's always a great pleasure for me to see my students succeed, and getting up to speed on Tijana's work was certainly no exception. This episode of The Knowledge Mill was recorded at the Moore Park campus of UTS on July 17, 2025. Show notes, including links to more information on some of the topics that Tijana and I discuss, can be found at theknowledgemill.com/episode 22. That's episode in the numerals 2 and 2. Hi, Tijana. Welcome to the program.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. It's a great pleasure. This is actually the first time that I'm interviewing a former student.
Very cool. No, I'm very excited to be here.
We first encountered each other. We just worked out before we started recording that we encountered each other 7 years ago.
Yep. Crazy.
Yeah. And now I was doing my PhD at the time, teaching a subject called Sport and Society, and now you're doing your PhD. And we may as well just get right into how did you find yourself doing this PhD?
Yeah, sounds good. I guess my kind of journey into the PhD probably did start 7 years ago. Back as an undergrad, like throughout high school, like I liked biology, I liked PDHBE. I knew that I liked sport and exercise as a concept, but at that age, like you don't really know where you see yourself in 5-10 years. And yeah, careers advisor, I guess, suggested UTS as an option. They had a new-ish sport and exercise science bachelor's degree, and that kind of ticked all of my boxes at that time. I liked the idea of physio. I liked injuries. I grew up as a dancer, so I had always been, I guess, active and very injured myself as well. So that kind of sparked, I guess, the interest of the human body, sport, exercise, science. Grew up with a family that was very sporty as well, but I never got into the team sport stuff. Dancing was always my thing. And then, enrolled in that in 2018. And I feel like all of the pieces after that just tended to fall into place. Looking back, it's, I guess, strange in a way that I feel like I didn't really decide anything at the time. It was just like, oh, this popped up, that popped up. So it was just take everything as it kind of came. There was probably like two main paths, I guess, to finding myself in a PhD. One was like the enjoyment of research, but then also the fact that I started some sort of like teaching role as well fairly early. So in my second year of undergrad, I started as a UPass leader for anatomy here in this building, basically. So that's like a student kind of mentor, essentially. Like as a second year student, you run these additional support sessions for first years. So that was, like my little casual gig at the time, kind of got my foot in the door to teaching, gave me a little bit of a taste about what that might look like. And at the time too, like I was teaching dance, I was, a student teacher doing all of those things. And I was a tutor throughout high school as well. So I kind of always had that, I guess, passion for helping others learn of thing. Did that for a couple of years. And then we got to like the September of the final year, and that's always like, okay, what's next? What's happening? Had a lot of different questions from a lot of like mentors and supervisors here as well at UTS. It was a bit of a strange year because that was actually 2020. So we had a massive lockdown that year, right? So I guess my my placement, my exposure to all of those more practical kind of subjects was very different to what the students here now get. We didn't have face-to-face classes for that first semester at all. Like I feel like we came to one class and then we got that university-wide email. Everyone would have got it and was like, go home. There's no more classes running. So yeah, it was a very different, I guess, final year experience to what I had expected. I was, however, lucky enough to still get a placement in that final year as well. So I was able to, tick all the boxes, blah, 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 blah. And that then started my, I guess, practical aspect of my career, which I guess we can come back to a little bit later.
Sure.
But yeah, after lockdown, after finishing placement, there was kind of that moment of like, oh, okay, what actually is next? Like, what do we do? And Dr. Lee Wallace, who was the subject coordinator for the anatomy classes I was teaching UPath for, basically came to me and was like, have you thought about honours? And my response was, what is honours? Like, I legitimately had no idea at the time what it was. But yeah, we sat down, we had that conversation. There was a subject in the second semester of third year that actually had like a mini research literature review project as an assignment. So we were like, why don't we use that as a potential, taste, see if you like that style of, meta research. It was a systematic review. So a big synthesis basically of all of the research papers that exist in a specific topic. And I did like it. And then, yeah, it kind of started, I guess, my pathway into honours. That topic, or like my, I guess, project was on high-intensity multimodal training. So it's a bit of a, I guess, technical term, but if we think about any type of high-intensity activity that combines cardio and weights into a single session, that's what HIMT is.
Okay.
So high-intensity multimodal training, HIMT, or HIMT. Yep. That's probably what I'll refer to it as for the rest of today. But yeah, the reason that we chose that is because I guess it's so popular in the community right now. Like, it's F45, it's CrossFit, it's High Rocks, it's any type of like hybrid group fitness boot campy training, basically. And yeah, I guess we saw that there was a bit of a need for more of an understanding of what it actually is and what it does. So my honours was basically looking at what are the effects of that type of training in the general healthy adult population. So what is it good for and does it work? And that first part of the honours was a systematic review, basically, so a bit of a continuation of that assignment that I did originally. And we found that it was pretty solid for aerobic fitness, so gets you fitter, essentially. And it was a little bit mixed in terms of like our muscular fitness gains. So we get a little bit strong, maybe a little bit more endurant, maybe some power, but not all studies were saying the same thing. Body composition was already really well established. So basically it got people to build muscle mass and it helped them lose fat. But then something else that was interesting that we found in that initial review was that people were enjoying it. So there was like a positive, I guess, perceptual response to that type of training. And then the next part of the honours was like, okay, well, why are people enjoying it? And given that we had a second lockdown in 2021, I was very limited in terms of what data collection I could do as part of the honours. So we pivoted and we went to an online survey. I sent it out to as many people as I could, anyone who participated in HIMT, and just asked them, do you enjoy it? Why do you enjoy it? Basically. So that was, that wrapped up my honours. The biggest findings, I guess, there were that people enjoyed the variety of it because, like, every session is different. And for anyone listening, like, if you've done an F45 class, you know that, right? Like, every single time you show up, it's different. People also enjoyed, like, the group training aspect, which we know is a pretty solid, indicator of adherence and, like, long-term enjoyment. And then people also enjoyed the fact that it got them fit. So some pretty cool takeaways from that initial project. And I think we probably got to about halfway, 3/4 of the way through, and I was like, I'm really liking this. Like, I know that I want to keep going. The lifestyle that research was giving me was also awesome. I started casual teaching in anatomy, so the same subjects that I'd done UPass for, and it just kind of flowed into the next thing, basically. And then PhD started in May of 2022. So I had a bit of a late start, which was kind of nice. Like I held off on starting the scholarship because I was lucky enough to get a stipend. But yeah, it just took like a few months teaching, settling into, I guess, like the new chapter and starting to think about what a 4-year PhD might look like for me. And I just, like I feel like I've blinked and now we're in 2025.
That's it. It happens like that. Yeah, absolutely. It's just interesting how all of that has just flowed one thing right into the next. It's not everybody can. Some people try to set it up that way on purpose and they can't do it. Yeah. So it's nice that you were enjoying it along the way, A, but B, that it took you, when you make your decisions for your own happiness kind of one at a time, sometimes you can look up and be like, wait, how'd I get here? So it's nice that you ended up somewhere you wanted to be.
It's very much been like that. It's like, okay, we're here, we're nearly at the end kind of thing. But yeah, like the first probably 2 years of the PhD just kind of felt like we were doing the same thing. Well, like obviously we were making progress, but it was teaching, it was research, had the flexibility of university holidays, which was excellent. And I guess I was also able to work as a practitioner at the time too. So I had like all of the 3 worlds of practice, teaching and research kind of happening at the same time. And I think that was a really key and important time for my development as a person, right? Like I wasn't locked into one specific thing. So wouldn't change a single thing.
It's good. It's good to have that variety, because if you get a little burned out with one of them, you can just sort of shift your focus a little bit.
Exactly.
Just keep circling around.
Yeah, pretty much. Yep.
Well, it's so incredible that it's worked out that way for you. Can you tell us a little bit about the PhD itself and how it's been going for you?
Yeah, sure. So I'm still looking at the same topic, HIMT, and we took, I guess, a zoom out essentially for the PhD. Like honours was, as an honours project is, right? Like it's a little bit more niche, a little bit more closed. You've only got 9 months of chaos to finish it. But a PhD is, like that 4-year kind of, I guess, commitment. And you really got to know that you're enjoying what you're doing for that amount of time. So I guess the planning stage was nice and long, as it should be. And we went with the overarching research question for the thesis to be, what are the prescriptive considerations of HIMT? So what are all of the pieces of the puzzle that we can put together when designing a session, essentially? And how does that impact our acute training response? So what happens in the session, and then our longer term training adaptations. So if we think about prescriptive considerations as things like how many sets we're doing, how much time we're working for, how intense are we doing something, what exercises are we doing, in something like HIMT, which might be like a circuit, it might be a pyramid scheme, it might be blocks of weight training and blocks of aerobic training, there were just like endless amounts of combinations that were possible. So to, I guess, start unpacking that, the first big part of it was another literature review that looked at every single study that exists and said what has been done, basically, and what outcomes have been assessed as well. So that paper was a lot bigger than we thought it was going to be. That probably took 18 months of work, just working on that. So for context, there was 221 included papers in the systematic review, and that is, very large. So that took up a big chunk of that first part. And because I wasn't, I guess, collecting data at that time, it felt, I don't want to say easy, but PhD life felt very manageable in that first part, because it was just desk work, it was reading, it was extracting data and so forth. I hadn't really hit the ground absolutely running, but that definitely changed. Once we had all of that, I did my stage 1. That big lit review basically got us to that stage, and at that time, I was about 12 months in, and I actually had an opportunity to go to Paris and present at the European College of Sports Science conference. So PhD life was great. University supported travel, all of these different opportunities was awesome. I was going to other conferences in Australia, and it just felt really nice. Like, was still able to teach, was still able to, do my practitioner work. So I worked in an exercise science and physiology clinic, so delivering exercise basically to healthy pop. And I started kind of teaching Pilates as well. That became like a little niche of mine. Then we're up to about the end of 2023 now. Had a little bit of a break in that summer with the Paris trip, and I spent 6 weeks in Europe, as you do. Came back and we were like, okay, now it's kind of crunch time. What are we doing next?
Yep.
So the second step of the PhD was to do some interviews with coaches and practitioners who actually delivered HIMT in the community. Hadn't been done before, essentially. There was a few little surveys and things about like how CrossFit coaches, for example, operated, but we really wanted to know a little bit more. And yeah, that study was really eye-opening for me. Like, I got to actually speak and engage with people in practice, and I think that was like a bit of a growing phase for myself as an individual too.
Sure.
Like getting to hear lots of different experiences, and because I also had that experience as a group fitness instructor, like through uni, I could relate to what they were saying a little bit better. That study collection was about 4 weeks in February of 2024. And then the, I guess, pressure and the chaos of the PhD definitely spiked directly after that, because then the next step was like, okay, are we going to collect data? Like, what's happening? Are we training people? What is the next step? And we ended up developing a randomized control trial that was technically a clinical trial to be run over a 3-month period in 2024. And as like you might be able to relate to, like the turnaround with ethics and things like that is a little bit of a time crunch. So I had about 5 weeks to write up a protocol and get it through ethics and do all of that. So 2024 was a little bit of a minefield, basically.
Sure.
That's when it definitely felt like PhD life was as people describe it as. Like,
this is what everyone's always talking about.
Yeah, it was like a bit of a slap in the face, like, oh, okay, this is what people mean. So I definitely lived that for sure last year. But at the same time, like that experience of training 80 people was awesome.
Yeah, right.
So it kind of turned into like this massive project. It wasn't just a training study. Like we had 3 different locations across Sydney. I had 80 participants across all of them. I had third year sports science students doing their placement with the project, so
brilliant.
they could like help us run all the training sessions. But it was just madness. So like I felt like I was in charge of 100 people essentially for 3 months. And yeah, if that doesn't describe the chaos of a PhD, I don't know what does. Yeah.
That's bananas. That's like CEO level kind of management skills required.
Yeah, it was madness. Definitely some times of like burnout, fatigue and all of that, but I guess expected, right? And it was very like short term, so definitely super manageable. It was a sprint.
Yep.
And I can see that it's like starting to pay off now, and probably will continue to pay off with the amount of data that we've got that I'm sitting on at the moment. Like for some context, we were looking at mostly like what are the physical changes that take place after 7 weeks of training in HIMT, and then we compared those changes to like our separate cardio and weights training. So do we see, I guess, like different changes if we combine all of our training together or if we separate them onto different days? That was the main question. So we did maximal strength testing, we did maximal aerobic capacity testing, we took blood, we did a whole bunch of surveys, we looked at menstrual cycle data, lots of bits and pieces. So my job now, I guess, coming out the other side of that, is working out what goes into the thesis and then what doesn't.
Well, because what you've just described is about 6 or 7 PhDs.
Yes, exactly. So that's kind of where I'm at now, actually. 7 months later, I'm still in the same position, because it was basically finish up in November. I took a holiday. I was like, see you later, I need a break. And then came back in January to a full-time job at UTS, actually. So since then, it's just kind of been like, okay, what's fitting in where, getting like on my feet in the new role as well. So again, I've blinked and we're 7 months later. Yeah,
it's wild how, especially when you do take on something else like a paid role. What exactly, in what capacity are you working at UTS?
So I'm a full-time associate lecturer now. Like throughout the PhD, as I mentioned before, like I was doing some casual teaching, bits and pieces like that. But, you know, as a casual, like you're kind of able to just rock up for the semester. That's it. You know, you don't see all of the behind the scenes, the subject coordination, the assessment, organization, blah, blah, blah. I I was lucky enough actually to be in a subject coordinator role in 2024. I did fill a position as like a last minute kind of fill in. But yeah, it's definitely been very different being in a full-time capacity. Like, you know a little bit of what you have to do as a casual, but it's totally different. So that's been, very, very different, and learning all new subjects as well this year. So brought in to teach some different ones that I haven't taught before. So it's been really fun, actually.
What kind of topics are you teaching?
So last semester just gone, I had exercise rehabilitation and sport and exercise medicine. So they're both third year subjects. Very similar to what kind of work I would be doing in the clinic, like when I worked as a practitioner. So it was really nice to, I guess, bring in some of my personal anecdotes, like what I've seen and experienced with clients.
I'm curious, considering the way that you've talked about different realms in your life coming together, if you had the same experience with teaching, or are having the same experience with teaching that I had when I was a casual doing my PhD, which is that for me, the teaching, dealing with not dealing with, that's not the right phrase, engaging with undergrads, that was for me the mental break from the work on the thesis. And because I was teaching in an area that I was also researching, I just found the different cohorts through the years and the things that they were curious about to sort of keep me inspired, because inevitably we get into thesis mode and we're just focused on that one thing and we're looking at the finish line and we just got to get it done. Maybe we're thinking about next steps like getting a job, but you get very focused on your own thing. And so it's nice to come out of that bubble and encounter kids who are younger and excited to be starting their uni career, if not their actual career. Do you find it the same?
Yeah, definitely like earlier PhD years, like the teaching was definitely like a refresher. That's kind of how I would describe it. And the classes I was teaching, it was anatomy, like it was fun. It was more often than not first year students' favorite subjects in both first and second semester. Sorry to say that. So yeah, it was really fun. Like, of course, teaching in itself, right, is draining. If you're doing a 10-hour day, it is what it is. But yeah, the engagement was awesome. Last year, that definitely probably shifted, but I think that was just the nature of last year running the clinical trial. Like all of my energy was there essentially. So the teaching, unfortunately, just came more of like I need cash type thing. Like I got to pay the bills. But like I found, I guess, my engagement and my enjoyment through actually training the people in the study, because that's what I did. I was a coach for those 7 weeks. Like I was training people 4 days a week. So the tables turned there. And then this year it's flipped back. So all brand new subjects for me, but having third year was totally different. I really did not expect to engage with them in the way that we did. I don't know if they were a unicorn cohort, but honestly, it was a really amazing 12 weeks. Like so much curiosity, so much investment in themselves as learners, and it was really, really awesome to work with them. And yeah, it definitely is a big jump from first to third year. Like you obviously have that glow up as a student, but then being on the other side, it's crazy to see how far they can actually come in those 3 years. So yeah, we flipped back again this year, and now because I'm like 70% teaching, I actually do spend a lot of time in the classroom. So my role is 70% teaching and learning, 20% research, which for me is finish the PhD. I've also started supervising an honor student, which is awesome.
Nice.
And then 10% is like your service. So that's all of the other little bits and pieces of the job. But yeah, definitely a lot of time is spent in teaching and learning. So being able to come back to my thesis is also nice and refreshing at times when I do get to do that.
Yeah, because in the middle of a semester, you're pretty locked into student engagement in the classroom, the contact hours, but also the emails, the marking. It's a lot.
Exactly.
And if you're 70, I'm also 70% teaching. It's one semester might be heavier than the other one as well, and then you're just locked into that.
Exactly.
I had a similar experience because the subject where I taught you, it was a first semester subject, and I would teach that one in the autumn, and then in the spring I would teach one called International, at that time it was called International Sport Marketplace. Did you ever take that one?
No.
And that was third year final semester. So it was like one semester to the next, I would have that jump from very first year and then just right at the end thinking ahead to the career. And that was always a bit jarring that way, but I would very often see, with that 2-year break, of course, some students in sport and society, and then 2 years later. And that was always really fun.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, it's nice to see, speaking of that evolution of students, a particular student who's gone through that I love that phrase, glow up, who's gone through that student glow up and come out the other side.
Yeah, that's cool.
It's very cool. One of the things that we haven't spoken about yet is this incredible facility in which we're recording this conversation, which in the context of the UTS campus is kind of off on its own because it's up in an area of Sydney called Moore Park, which is right next to Sydney Football Stadium and the Sydney Cricket Ground, and a few of the footy teams train and everything up in you've got Rugby Australia just on the other side of the building as well.
Yes, we do. We're very well connected up here.
And before we started recording this conversation, you mentioned to me that when you started your undergrad, you were in the first cohort to come into this building. And so I'd be interested to know kind of how you've engaged with it through the years in terms of that undergrad and your PhD and now your job.
Yeah. To be honest, the location and the newness of the facility is kind of what sold me to the degree as well. I'm not a city girl. I don't really like going to the CBD. So the fact that it was a little bit separate was definitely a calling point. I was just blown away as a first year, right? Like you walk into a uni and you're like, whoa, like all of this is at my disposal. That was absolutely insane. And it probably wasn't until like late second year and then kind of early third year that you go, oh, okay, like this is actually what we've got. You don't realize the magnitude of the equipment, of the facilities, and even of the tutors and stuff, to be honest. Like the team that we have here is so wise, so much experience, like from all walks of sport, physiology. Like we've got staff in the AIS, Australian Institute of Sport, that is, NSWIS, New South Wales Institute of Sport. We've got staff in Oklahoma City Thunder, like insane. And you really don't realize that as a fresh little first year. It's not until, you gain that confidence to actually have a conversation with your tutor and you go, oh, okay, you actually have all of this experience. That's amazing. Yeah. And then you go, I'm going to take advantage of that. Being, I guess, exposed to all of the little bits and pieces throughout the degree was a nice little taster of what is available. Like we've got, for example, in the hallway just opposite us here, we've got a golf simulation study happening at the moment. Right. So they're trying to validate the use of different basically simulators against the gold standard, which is 3D motion capture. So that room in itself is worth like $1 million. We've also got physiology labs on 2 different levels. We've got 2 state-of-the-art resistance training rooms. Like it's amazing that you get to learn in these spaces as an undergrad and then take advantage of them as a research student. So for my PhD in the study, for example, we had all of our participants come through here for their baseline and then their follow-up testing. We did a DEXA scan, which is basically like a really fancy x-ray machine that tells you how much fat and how much muscle you have. So they did one of those at the beginning and the end. We did maximal strength testing, like I mentioned, in our resistance training room, and some VO2 max testing, which is a really fancy test that you do on a bike with a gas mask on your face.
Right.
And it tells you basically how good your body is at using oxygen. So the fact that we had all of these things here ready to go kind of made that study a lot easier. Like, sure, we had to partner with a few other partners to get it off the ground, such as like a pathology lab to analyze all of my blood, because we've got a fridge and a centrifuge here, but we didn't actually have, I guess, the human resources to make that happen. Same thing, like our gym here could facilitate a number of people training, but we ended up needing another 2 training facilities to get it off the ground. So we kind of leveraged a few different industry relationships we had, and we were able to run it across 3 different places. But this place is very cool, and now teaching in the facility too is awesome. Like getting to actually use that in my day-to-day job, teach students how to lift properly in the gym, teach them how to take a lactate measure. Really awesome.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Did you find whenever you were bringing in the subjects for your study, Like, were they blown away by?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. They were like, oh, my God, we didn't even know this was here. Like they might have lived up the road, for example, and gone, oh, that's a pretty building. But until you step inside, you don't really know how much is in here.
Yeah. In addition to being exposed to the equipment here, what did you find with your participants in terms of their comfort level with the analysis you were doing and kind of the professional level of engagement there?
Yeah, to be honest, they were all troopers. Like, we did unfortunately put them through a fair amount of testing, and the training itself, to be honest, was pretty intense. Like, it was 4 days of a high intensity 45-minute session, and our attendance and adherence rates were actually insane. I only had 4 people drop out of the 80 or whatever that was.
That's really good.
So we were absolutely stoked. But I think that the way that the participants engaged with the program and handled themselves was definitely a testament to the team that I had around me, like my supervisors and all of the other HDR students who got involved and helped us run the trial. We had like at least 2 coaches in every single room, and all of the participant feedback about the coaches themselves was amazing. So I can't thank the team enough for that. Getting your blood taken 6 times in 1 week is a little bit tough, so they all absolutely smashed that. But as you have to be running a trial like that, we were very clear from the beginning that, you know, this is what you are getting into. These are all the procedures that we do have to do. You know, we're taking every precaution that we can, like in line with the university ethics approval and so forth. So I think we're all really understanding of like why we were doing what we were doing, and that we weren't just collecting data for the sake of it, right? And as part of like getting the project off the ground, I created like a lot of resources for participants as well. So they had like an FAQ sheet that was like, how do I prepare for this? What do I need to do? And all of that. So I don't know if that kind of helped the situation, help them put themselves at ease kind of thing. But yeah, we were really transparent about what we were trying to do, I think, and I think that helped.
I'd be curious to know, on the back of everything you just described, where would your participants go from here now that the study's done?
Yeah, really good question. We had a follow-up survey, essentially. We asked them about like, have your physical activity behaviors changed? For example, some people I actually know have kept training together, which is awesome. So like, I guess we had that group kind of community vibe that we created, being group training and being that participants were training in the same place for 7 weeks with the same people. So that was awesome. That was really touching. And then just like other messages of people saying like, I'm now confident enough to walk into a gym by myself, and I've never had that before. So yeah, some people have kept in contact. Some people actually continued training with the partners that we ran the study through. So overall, some really awesome, just like lifestyle positive changes.
Yeah. And even if that, I mean, it's multiple people, but even if it was just one life that you improved, how nice is that?
Exactly. Yeah. Very touching.
So in terms of, we spoke about just the sheer volume of data that you have and your timeline. You mentioned before we started recording that you're doing your thesis by publication. So can you walk me through kind of how it's all going to unfold, I guess, which data sets you're going to use, which ones you'll put aside for later?
Sure. So the systematic mapping review is published. So that forms both like an introduction and chapter 2, I guess, because a lot of the introduction to the training mode itself will fall into that publication already. And we'll probably try and not double dip in terms of the pages and the writing. Then the next chapter will be the interview study. So I'm kind of working on a lot of things at once at the moment. I've got my fingers in a lot of pies. So hopefully that will ideally that gets published like before I submit, but it depends, because it's a qualitative analysis. Like, we need to have 2 people look at the data essentially, and then we compare how we interpret it. So that's where that study is at. We're still trying to unpack what exactly to do with the randomized control trial. There's a lot, right? The key things, though, that I would like to prioritize for the thesis is definitely the physical outcomes, because that was the main question going into it. It was like, do we see a difference in our strength and our fitness and our body composition if we train in these 2 different modes? So that definitely will be one paper by itself. What are the 7-week changes in strength, fitness, and body composition? That'll be one. Some other areas we can potentially look into is like the overall, I guess, feasibility of a project like that. Like, what are the strengths of the way that we ran it? What were the challenges that we faced with some of the data collection methods? For example, like we took heart rate in every single session, but only like 20% of those files are actually viable, which is insane, right? So yeah, there's definitely, I guess, more so some recommendations that could come out of it.
Yeah, right.
Don't really know what that would look like in a published format yet, but I think there's a really cool story to tell in itself there, and like our challenges and I guess recommendations working with industry partners as well, because I think that type of research is really important when we're talking about exercise and training, because if we want to understand what's happening in the community, like we need to be able to balance that, I guess.
Yeah.
So that's an idea, and I think, well, I would like to think that that's a thesis, but some
like
supervisors may disagree. I don't know, but other areas to go down are like all of the blood hormones. So that will be a paper down the track, I guess. What is the acute response in our blood hormones to the different types of training? We could also look at all of the different perceptual data that I gathered. So I asked people if they enjoyed the training. I asked them how recovered they felt before, what their soreness was like, their overall rating of the session in terms of exertion, so RPE. And we also looked at training quality as well. So like spreadsheets at the moment. And it's very much just like fitting a puzzle together. But I guess that will keep me going after the thesis for sure.
Yeah, that's right. Anything you don't use, you'll hit the ground running in the new role.
Exactly.
That's amazing. It seems to me that, and just based on the way that you've described it, and you've gone into the literature, you've done the reviews, you know what work has been done, it seems like it's not altogether common to have the qualitative angle on something like this, where you're trying to understand how things fit into people's lifestyles and communities. What motivated you to look at all of that?
I think that something that we really wanted to understand was like where coaches in the space are getting that information from. Like having gone down that route myself, right, as a coach, like I knew how I was educated to get there, but I guess everyone comes from a different background, and that style of training that I've looked at, for example, it's not focused on, I guess, as a priority in a university setting. Like we're more so traditional strength and conditioning principles, and bits and pieces of that do fit into HIMT, but it's very different. And like I kind of said at the beginning, there's a lot of pieces of the puzzle, and coaches can fit that together in a lot of different ways. So that's why we wanted to actually speak to coaches and have that qualitative interview. And then from a participant point of view as well, like from my honours, having known that people did express enjoyment and positive perceptual responses to it, we definitely wanted to make sure that we were collecting that aspect through the clinical trial as well.
Yeah, absolutely. It occurs to me that these kind of stories are fit for science communication, SciComm, outside of what you might call traditional channels. Like you were saying before, you didn't know what shape putting together this model might look like in terms of publications. But I think we're headed in academia, the big we, are headed toward kind of more acceptance of these alternative avenues, like, for example, not to be super meta, but doing a podcast and sharing stories that way. This doesn't do anything for my H-index, but I get to hear a lot of interesting stories, and I'm across more, even just speaking with yourself. It's very nice to catch up with a former student and also hear about what's happening up here whenever I am able to speak to UTS students. But that might be something to consider as well in the future. Maybe what you're doing, of course, is putting together a model that could be replicated in other contexts and settings, and maybe it becomes about packaging that somehow, putting it on a website or doing a video series, something like that.
Yeah, no, that's really cool. And funny you said that. Part of what I want to do, like wrapping up or towards the end of the thesis, whether that's before or after publication, is actually put on some type of like networking event for all of the practitioners who were involved in the interview research, and kind of use that as a way of going, hey, this is what I found in my thesis. This is how I think you might be able to take that on board kind of thing. And the industry partners who we had involved with actually running the trial, like the idea is that they will collaborate with me to put together the resources so that it is in like a practitioner friendly format. Because sure, like I do have that experience as a practitioner, but I would say like I'm probably deeper in the research kind of headspace at the moment. So having them to kind of build that up, whether that's like an infographic, whether it's some slides, something like that, that then those practitioners can then like disseminate again to their networks and their colleagues, and I guess spread the message in a more user-friendly way.
Yeah, that's right. And then I think there would be as well, you'd be surprised to find who picks that up. Yeah. Because you think, but then someone somewhere is going to find it and maybe even tweak it and apply it in a different way, and then your work takes on a new life. It's always kind of fascinating to see how that happens, and it's nice when it happens in a good way, which is not someone citing you and misinterpreting because that happens too. But that might be something to consider, especially because you do already have that job lined up. And that's that nice crossover as well with the teaching side of things, where you're very skilled and experienced, and you can bring that into really making a positive impact in people's lives.
I hope so. That's the plan.
You mentioned before that you find yourself supervising an honors student, and that's something that I haven't had the pleasure of doing myself, going from being supervised to supervising a student. How are you finding that?
It's been interesting, but also very fun at the same time. This student in particular actually did her placement with the project last year, and then has ended up using some of that data to formulate the honours project. So it feels like we've been working together for a lot longer than just this year, which has been really nice. But it's definitely been, I guess, a shift and like good reflective practice for me in a way to go, I'm at a level now where I know these things and I can answer the questions, and the roles are flipped. And it's just been really strange. Like definitely there's times where I don't know the things, right? And I'm a co-supervisor, so ultimately we have another 2 supervisors on the team and the primary, of course. But it's been really interesting finding out like how we all fit in a team and working out like which supervisor can support which aspects of the project and the research as well. So I think, for my development, it's been excellent, but I think we're doing a good job. She seems to be going really well and is on track. So, it's been nice, really good.
Has it been teaching you, has it been instructive for your PhD?
Yes, actually, because as we're working on her project, some of the methods, for example, feed into mine, and I guess we're looking at the same data effectively, the same participants. So it's, I guess, been good in helping me figure out how to manage the data as well, and just communication, how to translate things, how to teach, how to support, how to mentor, and it's kind of like a symbiotic type relationship.
It sounds like it. She's doing some work that maybe you wouldn't do until later, but so she gets to bring you the notes, and you're like, nice.
That
sounds good. Nice one. The thing that's really coming through here is just what a fantastic apparatus you have here at the because you're in the health faculty now, aren't you? The Sport and Exercise Science School. It's just so well set up, and it's such you were speaking to the quality of the team, and I've only just kind of been introduced to everybody within the past month or two. But what strikes me in the capacity that I've worked with them is how supportive everybody is of each other. You mentioned everyone's different specialties, but as well that people were very much happy to that's your thing, so you run with it, and then let me know if I can support you. And it just seems like it's just been so fantastic hearing your story, because what a great situation to be in. Yeah,
we're incredibly lucky here, and it's been even cooler from my perspective, right, to see that from an undergraduate now all the way to staff, and I guess even watching the other academics evolve themselves, because 7 years is a pretty long time. So being part of the furniture, I guess, for that long, I have seen a lot of different changes, and it's made my transition from HDR to staff all the more easier.
Have you found it interesting to go from these professors taught you in your undergrad to now your coworkers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely. And yeah, sometimes it's still a little bit like, oh, that's a bit strange, bit weird. But I think because everyone is just so friendly and so approachable, like it was not an issue for very long.
Yeah. That's nice because it doesn't always work out that way. Sometimes the power shift goes the other way and you sort of feel like you're a PhD student forever.
No, it's been very easy.
Yeah, nice one. As we kind of come to the end of our conversation, I'd be interested to know, because you have had this experience of kind of 7 years through all levels of the study, now you are part of the faculty as well. When you look back on the journey that you've described today, what are you thinking? Is there anything you would do differently? What were some highs? Maybe what were some challenges?
I don't know if I would want to change anything. Like, I don't necessarily love the idea of like, oh, I regret X, Y, Z. But probably just to like take myself less seriously at times. Like, I've always been, you know, all for school, all for study. Like, I'm that type of person. So there's probably times where I could have gone, okay, like this isn't the end of the world type thing. And I might have like over created some stressors and things like that. But even though like 2024 in itself was absolutely insane in the amount of work, like I can definitely see that it was so worth it in that same sense. Like, we changed the lives of like 80 different people. I was able to give like a bunch of students a whole new experience in research and in practice. And we also like built up the skill set of basically every single person who was involved in that. Like, we had HDRs who volunteered their time, and just I think everyone benefited from it. So I don't think I would change anything about that. Yeah, more just I guess my personal approach to it and be like, just chill. Like, it's all good. It's going to be fine. Because zooming out now, it was so fine. And all of like the little intricacies of the things that I was freaking out about literally don't matter now in the grand scheme of things. So
the stakes always seem high in the moment. But
exactly. Yeah. And I guess the biggest highs were definitely, you know, actually getting back into a gym and training people, because I had kind of missed out on that a little bit. Like, you know, you get that engagement when you're teaching, but I don't know, there's something about teaching someone to move and like be physically active that I didn't realize I was that passionate about until I had to train people again. And moving into different subjects now this year, like that's also reignited that. Like, I get to teach students how to prescribe exercise and why physical activity across the lifespan is important. And it's just making me go like, oh, okay, that's why I picked this degree, because I'm so passionate about exercise is medicine and all of that.
And it just has all come together for you. Yeah. No, that's brilliant.
Very lucky.
That's a nice segue, I think, to the last couple of questions that I like to ask everybody. The first one is just we just looked to the past, now we can look to the future. What's on the horizon for you?
Oh, finishing this PhD, shutting that chapter for sure. It's like, it is getting to that point where it's like, I know what I have to do, so let's just do it. Head down, bum up type of thing. I would love to be submitted by June next year. Like, I think that's achievable. Being a part-time student now with the full-time job, like, obviously has given me more time to do it, but I think the longer I drag it out, it's just, you know, just want it done kind of thing, because then that opens up a whole bunch of other opportunities. So I guess plans are to continue working through all of the data that I do have. I think that my honours student wants to continue into a PhD, so hopefully continue working with her as well. And there's always projects popping up around here, right? So I guess having that availability and capacity to put my hand up and say, yeah, like, I would love to learn a little bit more about that, because I think that's probably pretty important as an early career researcher or an ECR to kind of, find your feet. And I don't know, I can kind of see myself having a little bit of an identity crisis after the PhD is finished. I feel like some people mentioned that. We had a visiting academic from the UK actually, and she was like, I had a really big moment of I don't know who I am without my research project. So I don't know if I will have that, but I guess the plan to avoid that would just be to say yes to things, because right now it's becoming I kind of need to say no to make sure that I can finish it.
Yeah. But at least you do have that job that you know will be there at the end, and you can just throw yourself fully into that.
Definitely some security for sure.
Yeah. Because I can relate to, getting the PhD. Once again, this is one of the motivators for starting this podcast. The PhD was probably the most magical time of my life, because really we never get another opportunity to just research whatever we want. Yeah. In the way we want to.
Exactly.
Tell the story we want to tell.
Yeah.
And get paid to do it. Yeah. So that's a very rare opportunity. And unique to the Australian context as well, that's even possible. Mm-hmm. But I think the way that you've described your career unfolding so far, that you could just distract yourself to avoid that problem.
Probably, something will pop up. Like, I feel like I haven't had to, I've been lucky enough, I guess, to not actively seek an opportunity, right? Like, it's just, well, that's how I perceive it, right? Other people tell me, no, don't be silly. But I just feel like I've fallen into things because I've been in the right place at the right time, and apparently the right place is UTS. So,
well, there you go. Yeah. That's worked out for me too. So I can also relate to that part of the story. The very last question that I ask everybody, it's a bit of a hard pivot, but something at the moment that you're excited about. It's getting you out of bed, but it's not related to the PhD.
Yeah, cool. I'm going to South Africa at the end of the year, so very excited about that. Planning, some game drives, safaris, visiting Victoria Falls, Cape Town, all of those things. So
brilliant! Yeah.
Very excited.
How long will you be there?
3 weeks.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
that'll be what a light at the end of the tunnel.
Well, the game plan was to be closer to finishing this year, but I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how we go.
You'll still go and enjoy it.
Exactly. And then there'll be Europe next July. So that's another thing to look forward to.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Is that another holiday, or are you going to a conference?
I would like to tie it in with a conference, hoping that, most of the thesis is done. It would be really cool to present some of that, probably ECSS. Again, it'll be in Switzerland next year, so haven't been there yet. It would be very cool to go.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you very much for sitting down with me and sharing your story. I found it really fascinating. This is, I said at the beginning that it's the first time I've spoken to a former student, but it's also the first time that I've spoken to a STEM researcher. And you had the qualitative element, which made it easy for me to kind of find my way through everything. But yeah, thank you very much for sharing your story.
No worries. Thank you so much for having me. It's been fun.